Hey YouTube, I'm starting off with blow dried hair, and I used a blow dryer with a comb attachment to do this. And then I want to section my hair into 4 quadrants, just because this is how I like to do my hair. It's the easiest method. But I do need to get the sections I'm not doing out of the way, and I tried something new. Usually I put my hair in a ponytail just to get it out of the way. My brush broke. Hair is really thick. But I decided this time to braid my hair and pin it back because I want to keep my hair as stretched as possible. So if I put it in a ponytail, it will just bend and crease. So this is like my quick idea to get my hair out of the way, but also keep it decently stretched as possible. So you see, then I just take my hair, randomly pin it to my scalp, again just to keep it stretched, but keep it out of the way. Now I'm going to do that for the other side of my head as well. And you don't have to part your hair like this. You can start all in the back, but I don't like doing it that way. So braid down decently to the ends, and then just find somewhere to pin those ends, somewhere on your scalp. Now this is the section I'll be starting with. I start by making a diagonal part, just making a side part to make the section a bit smaller. And I'm just going to keep that straight and pin that down. Too lazy to braid that section. And you can determine how big or small you want your twist. I will say I made mine a bit smaller than I intended, but it worked out. They weren't too tiny for me to take down. And I did want them very full, so also think of that when you're parting your hair, how thick or thin you want your hair. I will say on the other side of my head I did only 2 braids right here instead of 3, but other than that they were decently uniform across my whole head. So I start with raw shea butter, and it's just like the normal white kind. I'm using some curls control paste as a sort of holder and some edge control. Nothing really creamy in this style. You want to use something that's very paste-like and thick, because anything else will revert your hair or make your hair shrink or curl up a little more. And I want my hair to be decently straight. So it's pretty simple from here. You just braid your hair, braid decently tight, not too tight, because for one, I can't grip that well, and for two, I just want to make sure I can take it down with my hand. So just braid naturally, nice loose pressure on each strand. And I did say I'm not using cream, but I forgot. For my ends, I do twist some cream. My ends only, because my ends are pretty frizzy. I notice if I use Control Paste or Shea Moisture that it makes my ends very like straight and stick-like really kind of hard, and I didn't like that. So only at the ends I put a very, very small amount of Shea Moisture, and sometimes I spray it with water just to get a bit of curl in that like last inch of hair. Again, start with your Shea Butter and just enough to coat your strand. On top of that, I put my Control Paste. And I start braiding my hair. Sometimes I actually put a bit of edge control on the root of my braid, even if it's in the middle of my head, but you don't have to do that. And if I'm braiding my hair and I notice it feels too sticky from the paste, I do coat it with more Shea Butter just to make it a bit softer. So that's my Shea Moisture. I finger coil that into my ends. You see they're really straight, not reverting back curly, and that is exactly how I want my braids to look. Remember to be gentle on your edges. You don't want to make your braid too small on your edge. Just make sure it's big enough for you personally to take down. And you'll see on my edges I don't braid all the way down. Usually I leave only 1 inch, but here I left like 2 to 3 inches left of hair and just put Shea Moisture on it, because I really don't care for it to be extremely tight to where I can't take it down. And here I'm just spraying a little bit of water because I was noticing I had too much curl paste on my ends and I wanted them to curl up a little more. I got better at this as I did more of my hair. And I always use the parts in the row below to guide the parts in the next row, or at least as best as I could. It was hard to get them perfect while recording. You start with your raw Shea Butter, then add your curl paste, and maybe a little more Shea Butter if you need, and just braid from there. And I did try to brush down my edges before braiding. If you know me and my edges, I just have to let them be sometimes. You'll see that the back two braids are slightly thinner in this row than the front braid. And again, that's just because of how my edges are. I just want to make sure that I can take down my braid. And they're not extremely full in the front temple area of my head. So I do have to leave more room to braid in that space. I think with twists you can make them smaller because you can easily unravel them, but with braids it's a little harder to take them down. This section of my hair is pretty thin, so I really only braid a little bit of the hair, and I just let the rest of it kind of be slicked down with Shea Butter and curl control paste. I then jump to the front of my head just because how my hairline is in the front. It'll be easier to shape the parts from how the front of my hair is instead of just going from the side like I was doing. They would probably be a little wobbly, a little uneven. So I just like to go off the front to make sure they're as straight as possible. And for the front braids, I was trying to braid downward, but also a little sideways so that they didn't like stick in my face. So the direction that you pull your hair is very important with this style. Like it?
Nice.
I didn't mean to do them this small.
No, you real small. They gonna last.
I know, I didn't mean to do it that small.
Forever.
I know. I really, because the last time I did these was August. I know.
You're way too deep. You gotta finish.
I am. No, I honestly did like 3, and I was like, this is too small. But then I was like,
You gotta let these last.
I know.
5 weeks.
5 weeks?
4 weeks at least.
Okay, 4 weeks.
You wrap your hair up every night. You can definitely let these last 5 to 6 weeks.
True. I just gotta not lay around. Yeah.
Where you wrap your head up on your scalp, we're gonna last 6 weeks without a problem.
I just gotta make sure I don't be lazy.
Without a problem.
I did not mean to do them this long.
Well, you didn't know.
This would be twice.
What am I doing?
Take the hamburger meat out the fridge and put it in a skillet. So just talking to my boyfriend about how ridiculously small my braids are. But they could be smaller, so I think, you know, it's acceptable. But I'm almost done with the top here. And it took 1 hour to do each section of braids. I really like how light they are. They're really movable, really flexible. Just got 3 more sections to do. Of course, I gotta fast forward because nobody wants to watch all of that. I'm on my last section, and you'll see that my hair's a little crinkly, but in general, compared to the blowout, it's kept a lot of its length. Didn't shrink up too much, so I was really happy about that. So to part the back of my hair, I do use 2 mirrors, my bathroom mirror, and then I prop 1 larger mirror. I base the parts off of the other side, try to mirror that as best as I can. When I do get closer to the top, it's easier because I can see it from the front, not like crossing my eyes. But I highly recommend using 2 mirrors to do the back of your head, unless you have somebody to like do the parts for you. And always remember to spray with water and use a little Shea Moisture. Here I am on the last braid finally. 1 hour per section, so it took 4 hours total, which I don't think is too bad considering box braids take me 8 hours to do it myself. So mini braids, I would do it again. Of course, follow up with some oil. I'm using some tea tree oil to coat my hair. I use that curl paste, which can be a little sticky, so I do like to just put some oil on my hair to soften it. I do have a very strong middle part down the back of my head, and again, if you don't want if you want your hair to be a little more free, then of course just start in the back or part diagonal the whole way if you don't want your hair to be in quadrants. But I wear a lot of 2 ponytails, so it works best for me. But I really love this style. It turned out super crisp and straight. Really nice length, and I guess you could say moisturized because my hair didn't feel dry. It was really shiny. Of course, I think it's best to moisturize your hair while blow drying it. Put all that cream in and then blow dry so that when you do the braids, you can just have your hair free. So here's the finished look. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Make sure to check out my night routine for how I preserve this style.